Okay, so far for solving quadratic equations, we've seen how to do it using the zero product property and using the square root property. Well, now we're going to look at the quadratic formula. So for any quadratic equation written in this standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, so a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number that's in front of x, and c is the constant, and we have that equation equal to 0, the solution can be found using the quadratic formula. And this is a formula you definitely want to make sure you have memorized. So x is going to equal the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all of that divided by 2 times a. So if you have trouble factoring, the quadratic formula is a way that you can always come up with your solutions as long as you remember your formula. So for this example, we want to solve the equations and give exact answers. That means we don't want to round if we end up with decimal values. All right, well, first we have to get this in the appropriate format. We need ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the 4x from both sides. So that gives me, I'm going to start with my negative x squared. I'm subtracting over the 4x. We still have the plus 5 equal to 0. So now we need to identify what is a, what is b, and what is c. Okay, so a is the number in front of x squared, so that number for us is a negative 1. B is the number in front of x, that's negative 4. And c is the constant, which is 5. So now we're ready to plug it into our formula. So quadratic formula says the solution to this equation is going to be x equal to, we're going to take the opposite of b. So since b is negative, the opposite of it's going to be positive 4. I'm going to write it like this, though, just to make it clear for our first run through. So negative 4 plus or minus the square root. Well, now we take b squared. When we square negative 4, it gives us a positive 16. Then we have minus 4 times. Now do a times c, which is negative 5. All divided by 2 times negative 1. So notice I did some of the steps in my head, because if you write everything out, it looks a bit more confusing and it's easier to make a mistake. So now the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4 plus or minus the square root, and then we have 16. Negative 4 times negative 5 is plus 20, divided by 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So we have 4 plus or minus. Now we have the square root of 36 all over 2. Okay, the square root of 36 is equal to 6. So we have 4 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. And now we need to just evaluate the two answers. So 4 plus 6 over 2 is 10 over 2, or 5. And then 4 minus 6 over 2 is equal to a negative 2 divided by 2, which is equal to negative 1. So those are our two answers. Okay. All right, let's look at part B. Okay, so we want to solve this using quadratic formula. When you look at that equation, first thing to notice is that it's not in the proper form yet. We need to get 0 on one side. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides to get that x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. So now let's identify our a, our b, and our c. In this case, they're all the same. They're all equal to 1. A is 1, b is 1, and c is 1. Okay, so x will equal the opposite of b, so negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 1 squared is just 1, minus 4 times a times c, 1 times 1 is 1, divided by 2 times a, 2 times 1. So we have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 4, all divided by 2. So under that square root, we have a negative 3 divided by 2. Okay, and what we learned in this lesson is a negative under a square root means that we can take out an I. So negative 1 plus or minus I square roots of 3, all divided by 2. And that would be our simplified answer.